welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to be upfront with you right out of the gate here.
Yeah.
Usually when we sit down to unpack a stack of sources for you, we're looking for utility, right? We're looking for a new way to manage your portfolio, or maybe a fresh take on historical trends, or just some cool science facts.
Right, little nuggets of information.
Exactly. But today feels, it feels very different.
It feels heavy, honestly.
It does. It really does. It feels like we haven't just been handed a book. It feels like we've been handed a dossier, or honestly, maybe a loaded weapon.
I'd say a weapon is the right analogy, or perhaps a map of a minefield that we're already walking through.
Yeah. So we're diving into the 2025 release by Conrad Riker. It's titled Marxism, a Christian Heresy, a Satanic Inversion. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Here we go, another political book.
Right, Marxism,
Yeah.
another political deep dive. But hold on, just listen for a second. If you are a man living in the West today, if you are someone who looks around at the culture, at the HR departments, at the movies, at the schools, and you feel like the walls are closing in, this is not a political discussion. Riker is offering a survival manual.
It really is a survival manual, because Riker isn't interested in, marginal tax rates or trade policy. He's interested in the soul of the civilization. He actually calls this book a scalpel in the preface.
A scalpel.
Yeah, and having spent the last week heavily immersed in this material, I think that's incredibly accurate. He is essentially slicing open the modern world to show us the rot underneath.
And before we even start dissecting the body here, I want to make a very specific call to action for you listening right now. Usually, I save this for the end, but the urgency of this text really requires it up front.
It really does.
Go to Amazon Kindle. Go to Google Play Books. Buy this ebook. Do it right now. I mean it. If you have a son, buy it for him. Riker calls it a weapon, and frankly, in the spiritual and psychological war we are in, you are going to need ammunition.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, make sure you like and subscribe to The Deep Dive so we can keep bringing you these breakdowns. You can also find the author on Substack at Conrad N. Riker. That's at Conrad N. Riker. Do not sleep on this guy's work.
The reason we are pushing this specific text so hard is because of its central thesis. Riker argues that we've fundamentally misunderstood our enemy.
Right.
We think we are fighting a secular economic theory. We think we are fighting quote-unquote bad policy. And Riker says, no, you are fighting a theology.
A theology. A satanic inversion.
Yeah.
That is the exact phrase that anchors the entire book.
Exactly. He argues that Marxism, and by extension the entire modern woke left, is actually a Christian heresy.
Which is wild to think about.
It is, but he lays it out. He says it is a parasite that attached itself to the moral framework of Christianity, hollowed it out from the inside, and is now basically wearing it like a skin suit.
That is such a terrifying image. A skin suit.
It's the perfect image, though. Think about it. What does the left talk about? They talk about justice. They talk about caring for the poor. They talk about compassion.
Sure, yeah.
Those are Christian virtues. But Riker argues they have completely inverted the definitions. They use the Christian language to destroy the Christian structure. They use it to destroy the father, to destroy beauty, and to destroy logic.
Okay, so let's get into the weeds here. Because to understand where we are right now,
Yeah.
with the blue hair, the pronoun circles, the collapsing birth rates, we have to go back to patient zero.
We have to talk about Karl Marx.
Right. But Riker paints a picture of Marx that I'd never seen before.
Because most of us get the sanitized version. We are told Marx was this secular atheist philosopher who looked at the factories in Manchester, saw people suffering, and just wrote a scientific theory to fix it.
Right, the noble intellectual.
Exactly. But Riker says that's complete nonsense.
He digs deep into the family history.
Right. Marx wasn't just an atheist in a vacuum. His father, Heinrich Marx, was a Jewish lawyer in Prussia. But more importantly than that, he was the son of a rabbi. The Marx lineage was rabbinical for generations.
Wow.
But then Heinrich converts to Lutheranism.
Why? Was it some sort of spiritual awakening?
No, not at all. It was to keep his job. The Prussian state had made it illegal for Jews to hold certain legal and civil positions. So Heinrich converts out of pure necessity. Fear, basically.
So imagine growing up in that house.
Exactly. You are young Karl Marx. You are watching your father perform these Christian rites, reciting the Lutheran liturgy, but you absolutely know it's a transactional act. It's a survival tactic.
So Riker is arguing this breeds a deep cynicism in Marx regarding religion.
It breeds profound contempt. But here is the twist that Riker points out.
Oh.
Marx doesn't just reject the Bible. He weaponizes it. There is a very specific analysis in the book of James, specifically James 5.4. Riker argues this single verse is the DNA of the entire leftist virus.
I have that marked here, actually. I want to read it because the context is so vital. This is from the New Testament. It says, "Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts."
Now pause right there. In Christian theology, what is this verse doing? This is a warning. It's God saying, I see your sin, I see that you cheated your workers, and I, the Lord, will handle it. It's an appeal to divine justice.
Right, like vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Exactly. But Riker argues Marx looked at this exact verse and saw a blueprint for earthly power. Marx essentially said, I like the anger. I like the idea of the laborers crying out. But let's get rid of the Lord of hosts. Let's put man in that seat.
Wow, that's the inversion.
That is the satanic inversion right there.
Yeah.
Christianity says God will judge the wicked, so you should practice mercy and forgiveness. Marx says there is no God. You are the judge. You are the executioner. Take what is yours.
He twists a call for divine justice into a mandate for envy, for human vengeance and class war.
It's subtle, but it changes absolutely everything. It turns the quote-unquote poor from people who need help into a standing army of vengeance.
And it removed the moral guardrails entirely.
Completely. Because if God is judging, you have to be careful about your own soul, right?
Yeah.
You have to make sure you aren't becoming a monster yourself while seeking justice.
Right.
But if you are the God of history, if you are the vanguard of the proletariat, then you can do anything. You can kill, you can steal, you can lie, as long as it advances the revolution.
And Riker connects this theological rot directly to Marx's personal life. And I think this is so important for the listener to hear, because we often separate the art from the artist. We think, well, maybe he was a terrible guy, but his economic theories were sound. Riker says, no, the man is the theory.
You cannot separate them. Marx was, frankly, a parasite. That's the only word for it. He lived almost entirely off the charity of Friedrich Engels. He absolutely refused to work. And I don't mean he couldn't find a job in a tough market. I mean he explicitly felt he was too good for wage labor.
The great champion of the working class who refused to actually work.
The irony is suffocating, but it gets incredibly tragic. Riker details the life of the Marx family in London. They were living in absolute squalor, filth, disease. And amidst this, his infant daughter gets bronchitis.
This part of the book was really hard to read.
It should be. The child is sick, she needs medicine, she needs better food. A normal father, a patriarch, would go out and sweep streets, he would shovel coal, he would do literally anything to save his child.
But Marx.
Marx sat at his desk writing Das Kapital. He refused to demean himself with a job to pay for his daughter's medicine.
And the daughter died.
She died. And Riker argues that in that specific moment, we see the true face of the ideology. Marx loved his idea of humanity more than he loved the actual human being in the crib next to him. He sacrificed his own flesh and blood on the altar of his ego.
That is the template right there. That is a prototype for every leftist leader that followed. Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, they all loved the people in the abstract, but they were more than willing to stack actual dead bodies to the moon to prove their point.
It's the Gnostic impulse, the belief that you have a secret knowledge and gnosis that makes you superior to common morality. Marx believed he knew the secret mechanism of history. Therefore, the death of a child, or later, a million kulaks, is just the cost of doing business.
So we have this theological virus. It starts with Marx. But Riker argues it has mutated over the decades. It's not just about economics anymore. It has become deeply psychological. And this is where the book really pivots to the modern day. He talks about the mother archetype gone mad.
This is a crucial concept for the men listening right now, especially the guys who are trying to decode the insane gender dynamics we see today. We often hear libertarians talk about the nanny state, but Riker goes much deeper. He says we are living under the devouring mother.
Let's break that down for the listener. What is the difference between the father archetype and the mother archetype in a political or structural sense?
So the father represents the law, order, challenge, merit. The father says, the world is hard. I'm going to teach you to be strong so you can survive it. The father pushes the bird out of the nest so it can learn to fly.
And the mother.
The mother represents nurture, safety, equality. The mother says, the world is scary. Come back into the nest. I will feed you. I will protect you. Now, in a healthy family, you obviously need both. You need the push and the hug.
Right, a balance.
But Riker argues that the West has essentially killed the father. We have completely removed the paternal principle from our institutions.
So we are left with only the mother.
An unbalanced, hysterical mother.
Yeah.
And because she has no husband, no father principle to restrain her or balance her out, she becomes tyrannical. She doesn't just want to protect the child anymore, she wants to prevent the child from ever growing up.
This is the infant versus predator dynamic Riker talks about. This was a massive aha moment for me reading this.
It explains literally everything we see in the culture. If the highest value in society is safety and nurture, then the ideal citizen is an infant. Think about it. An infant is helpless. An infant has no agency. An infant needs constant, endless care. The left loves the marginalized because they frame them as permanent infants who need the state to hold the bottle.
And if you aren't an infant,
Then you are a predator. This is where the men's rights angle comes into sharp focus. If you are a competent man, if you pay your bills, protect your family, think logically, and take risks, you are a threat to the mother. You don't need her. And in her hysteria, she views your independence as violence.
so the state isn't just ignoring men, it's actively trying to break them back down into infants.
Or destroy them entirely. Riker points to the cultural obsession with safetyism. Look at the universities today. We have safe spaces, we have trigger warnings, we have bans on quote-unquote harmful speech.
It's a nursery.
It is the nursery. The state is patting the corners of the entire world because it views the citizens as toddlers who might bump their heads on reality. Emotional safety overrides fundamental freedom every time.
And Riker links this directly to the mental state of the activists themselves. He has a section called The Politics of Hysteria.
He cites some fascinating data points here. Real studies linking left-wing ideology to high rates of neuroticism and low personal agency. He basically compares the behavioral profile of the modern activist to someone suffering from borderline personality disorder.
The splitting phenomenon, right?
Right. In borderline personality disorder, someone is either an absolute angel or a total demon. There is zero gray area. If you agree with me, you are perfect. If you disagree on one minor point, you are a literal Nazi. There is also this intense fear of abandonment. Riker argues this is why they are so loud, so screeching in the streets. It's the scream of a child terrified that mommy is looking away.
He calls them NPCs at one point, non-player characters.
It sounds like a cheap internet insult, but he means it descriptively and psychologically. When you see a protester chanting a slogan over and over, engaging in what Riker calls liturgies, they aren't thinking. They are downloading a script.
They're chanting.
Yes, they are signaling to the herd, I am safe, I am one of you. It's a defense mechanism against the terrifying chaos of independent thought.
This brings us to the war on men and fatherhood. Because if the goal of this ideology is a society of infants ruled by a mother state, the very first thing you have to do is liquidate the fathers.
The father is the ultimate rival. It's Freud 101 on a civilizational scale. The state cannot have absolute power if the family is strong. And the family is strong when the father is present and respected. So you have to delegitimize fatherhood entirely.
Riker lists some examples of this masculinity detox that honestly sound like conservative satire, but they're very real programs.
They are terrifyingly real. He talks about a specific program in Ontario, Canada from 2022. It was a government-funded curriculum that explicitly taught that men are socialized to dominate and that masculinity is essentially a pathology.
It's treated like a disease, like you are suffering from toxic masculinity, take this pill.
And the pill is feminization. Riker spends time on the emotion schools in Sweden. This
Yeah.
one really, really stuck with me.
Paint the picture for us. What exactly happens in a Swedish emotion school?
So imagine a classroom of young boys. These are little Vikings, right?
Yeah.
Biologically, they want to run, wrestle, build things, compete. But the curriculum forces them to sit in circles and quote unquote access their vulnerability.
Yeah.
They're literally graded on their ability to cry on command.
They're forced to cry.
Yes. The goal is to systematically break down their stoicism. No, historically, male stoicism is what kept the human tribe alive. When the wolf attacks the camp, or the ship is sinking, you don't want the men sitting in a circle crying. You want them calm, rational, and taking action. But the Swedish state views that stoicism as emotional constipation. They want to rewire these boys to process the world exactly like girls do.
It's a biological override.
It is. And Riker argues very forcefully that it's child abuse. You are stripping these boys of their natural psychological defense mechanisms and leaving them completely defenseless in a world that, despite what the left says, is still very dangerous.
And he backs this up with linguistic data too.
Yeah.
The Google Enneagram data he cites is wild.
Oh, the word usage stats. Yeah. He shows that the usage of the word manhood in published books has dropped 73% over the last few decades, while the term womanness has surged 410%. It's linguistic erasure.
And while they are breaking the boys spiritually, they are looting the men financially. The economic data in this book is the absolute receipt.
This is the part that will make every man listening incredibly angry. Riker breaks down the tax transfers. In the West, men pay approximately 82% of all income taxes.
82%. Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
That means men are effectively the only net taxpayers in the system.
Correct. But when you look at government spending welfare, healthcare subsidies, education grants, housing assistance, who is the primary beneficiary? Women. Men receive only about 30% of the welfare benefits.
So let's be crystal clear about what Riker is saying here. This is a massive wealth transfer.
It is the largest wealth transfer in human history. The state takes money from the labor of men, and the men who are working the oil rigs, the construction sites, the tech jobs, the dangerous jobs, and transfers it to the state bureaucracy to support women who are either working in that bureaucracy or dependent on it.
Riker calls it the husband state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Women don't need a husband to provide for them anymore because the state has taxed the husband to death and given the money to her directly. It completely breaks the economic necessity of the nuclear family.
Right.
You go to work, you break your back, and your money is taken by force to fund a system that teaches your son he's toxic and tells your daughter she doesn't need a man.
And if you try to fight this,
Yeah.
if you try to hold your family together and end up in the system, you run into the absolute buzzsaw of the family court.
The killing fields, as Riker calls them. He cites data from the Family Court Review. And the statistics are just damning. If a mother makes an accusation of domestic violence, and we are talking about a mere accusation, not a conviction, not even proof, her odds of winning full custody jump by 42%.
Just the accusation alone is enough.
It's known as the silver bullet. Lawyers know this. They routinely advise women to make the claim. Just say you felt unsafe. And immediately, instantly, the father is stripped of his rights. He is presumed guilty.
It's the complete weaponization of the believe all women narrative.
And Riker traces this directly back to the inversion we talked about at the beginning. In a Christian system, you have due process. You have the presumption of innocence. Why? Because objective truth matters.
Right.
In the Satanic inversion, truth is entirely secondary to power. If the woman is the infant victim and the man is the predator by default, then social justice requires punishing the predator, regardless of what actually happened in reality.
It's a return to the Inquisition.
It is. But instead of heresy against the church, it's heresy against the sacred feminine. Riker points to the University of Oregon's Believe Survivors policy as a prime example. They explicitly stated that cross-examination, the most basic legal tool for finding the truth, was re-traumatizing and should not be allowed. That is the death of due process.
Speaking of the sacred feminine, Riker takes a literal sledgehammer to the history of feminism itself. We are all taught this Hallmark Channel version of the suffragettes, brave ladies in nice hats politely marching and asking for the vote.
Riker calls them what they actually were, terrorists.
That is a very strong word.
It's the historically accurate word. He details their bombing campaigns. People forget this. Suffragettes bombed churches. They bombed the Chancellor of the Exchequer's home. Christabel Pankhurst explicitly said the church had failed women as a justification for the violence. But the story that really captures the insanity of the movement is Mary Richardson.
The meat cleaver incident.
Yes. This is 1914, London, the National Gallery. Inside hangs the Rokeby Venus by Velázquez. It is considered one of the most beautiful paintings of the female form in existence, a true masterpiece of Western civilization.
And in walks Mary Richardson.
She walks in, it's a quiet morning, she waits for the guards to look away, she pulls a meat cleaver out of her coat, and she just attacks the painting.
Just starts hacking at a masterpiece.
She slashed it 7 times. She destroyed the back of the Venus. It was brutal, physical violence against art. But listen to her justification. When she was arrested, she didn't say, "I hate art." She said, "I have tried to destroy the picture of the most beautiful woman in mythological history as a protest against the government for destroying Mrs. Pankhurst, who is the most beautiful character in modern history."
It's aesthetic terrorism. It's
Yeah.
literally, if I can't have what I want, I will destroy beauty itself.
It's pure envy. It's the exact same spirit as Marx. If the world isn't perfect according to my demands, burn it down. Riker argues that modern cancel culture is just the digital version of Mary Richardson's meat cleaver.
How so? Connect that for us.
Well, think about what HR departments do today. They don't use physical violence anymore. They use reputation destruction. If a man makes a joke or holds a conservative opinion, the coven in HR, as Riker calls them, goes to work.
The coven. I love that.
They weaponize gossip, they file anonymous complaints about microaggressions, they hack away at his reputation until he is fired and unpersoned. It is bureaucratic violence.
It's a way to kill a man without getting blood on your hands.
Exactly. It's the distinctly feminine style of warfare. Men historically fight with fists and logic. The inverted woman fights with reputation destruction, whisper campaigns, and social ostracization.
This brings us to what I thought was the darkest chapter in the book, the abortion apocalypse. Now, usually abortion is debated in this very sterile way, right to life versus right to choose. Riker reframes it completely. He calls it reproductive coercion against men.
This is a perspective you will never ever hear on mainstream media. Riker argues that abortion is the ultimate trump card in the power dynamic between the sexes. My body, my choice is a linguistic trick. What it really means in practice is, I have the unilateral power to extinguish your genetic line, and you have zero say in the matter.
He uses that viral TikTok example to prove it's about power, not health.
That was chilling to read. A young woman posted a video basically bragging that she told her boyfriend she was pregnant and that she would abort his child unless he proposed to her immediately. She held the life of his child hostage to get a diamond ring.
And the reaction from the public.
Millions of likes. Thousands of comments saying queen behavior or girl boss. Riker points this out to show that the culture has fundamentally accepted that a man's children are not his own. They are the sole property of the woman, to be kept or discarded based on her financial or emotional whims.
And the scale of this. The UN data he cites says 1/8 of the global population has been aborted since 1980.
1 out of 8. It is a demographic winter. We are erasing the future. But Riker adds another layer here that I found completely fascinating, the chemical layer. Biopolitics. The pill.
The Lund University study from 2019.
Yes. This study suggests that hormonal birth control doesn't just prevent pregnancy. It literally alters female brain chemistry. It increases neuroticism and narcissism in women.
So we are chemically engineering the hysterical mother archetype.
We are pumping millions of women full of synthetic hormones that simulate a state of permanent non-pregnancy, Riker asks. Is it any wonder that we have a massive mental health crisis? Is it any wonder that relationships are failing at record rates? We are chemically detached from biological reality.
We are fighting biology and we are losing badly. And this war on reality extends directly into our institutions. Riker talks about the capture of education. He calls it the war on logic.
This goes back to the trivium. The classical method of Western education: grammar, logic, rhetoric. You learn how to speak correctly, how to think rationally, and how to persuade others. The left has deliberately dismantled this. Why? Because logic is deemed patriarchal.
Logic is discriminatory because it says some things are objectively true and some are false.
Exactly. And the inverted mind cannot handle the concept of false. It wants my truth. Riker brings up decolonized math as an example.
I genuinely thought that was just an internet meme.
It's completely real. The idea that insisting on the right answer in algebra is a form of white supremacy or colonial oppression, it's pure insanity. But look at Cambridge University. He talks about the emotional support dragon.
Stop the what? I need you to explain this.
I wish I were making this up. Cambridge, one of the most prestigious, historically rigorous universities in the world, introduced something called the grief wyvern. It's a program where adults, literal adults, are given stuffed animals and engage in storytelling with a dragon puppet to handle their emotions.
We are literally back in the nursery.
It's the ultimate infantilization. If you treat university students like fragile toddlers who need a puppet to process normal human grief, you are guaranteeing they never become adults.
Right.
You are creating a permanent, dependent class of people who will need the mother state forever. He also mentions Harvard's narrative justice seminars, where logic and debate are replaced with writing trauma essays.
And then these people graduate and go to work at Amazon or Google. And we get what Riker calls the corporate left alliance. Now, this always confuses people. Why does a ruthless capitalist machine like Amazon fund a Marxist group like Black Lives Matter?
It's a protection racket. Riker nails this dynamic perfectly. Amazon donated $10 million to BLM. At the exact same time, reports were leaking that Amazon warehouse workers were peeing in bottles because they were penalized for taking bathroom breaks.
So the wokeness is just a smokescreen.
It's a moral offset. It's like carbon credits for the corporate soul. Jeff Bezos figures, if I fly the rainbow flag on the corporate headquarters and force everyone to use the right pronouns, the activists will leave me alone and I can keep grinding my working class employees into dust. Inclusion is just a profit center for them.
And it works. The left doesn't occupy Amazon HQ to demand better wages. They occupy the local Christian bakery that wouldn't bake a cake.
It's a very cynical alliance. The corporations get cheap labor, zero union pushback and deregulation. The left gets total cultural dominance and HR enforcement.
And the absolute losers are the working class men and the middle class.
Always.
But the deepest cut, and Riker says this for the final chapters, is the feminization of religion. Because if Marxism is a Christian heresy, it has to eventually infect the church itself.
And it absolutely has. Riker argues the modern church has completely ceased to be the house of the Father. It has become, in his words, spiritual fast food for female narcissism.
That line hit me like a truck.
It's harsh but true. Look at the modern liturgy. The active push to replace Father God with Mother God or Parent. He lists specific examples. The drag Eucharist in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The womb-shaped sanctuary in Austin.
Wait, there is a womb-shaped sanctuary.
Yes. Complete with what they call menstrual liturgies. Riker describes it vividly. And he mentions the massive statue in Uppsala Cathedral in Sweden, a breastfeeding mother god replacing traditional Christian iconography. Riker argues that men are leaving the church in droves not because they are all sudden atheists, but because the church has absolutely nothing for them anymore.
Men crave challenge. They crave order. They crave truth.
And the modern church offers nothing but affirmation. It offers emotional safety. It's basically a therapy session with a few acoustic hymns thrown in. A masculine man doesn't want to be affirmed in his weakness or his sin. He wants to be challenged to be better. When the church lost its masculine edge, its saltiness, it became utterly useless to men.
And finally, we get to the death of beauty. We talked about Mary Richardson and the meat cleaver earlier, but this is broader. Why is modern architecture so depressing and ugly? Why is modern art a literal pile of bricks?
Riker calls it aesthetic nihilism. Beauty implies order, and it implies hierarchy. A Gothic cathedral pointing up to the heavens is objectively better than a concrete strip mall. A Rembrandt is objectively better than a pile of bricks at the Tate Modern Art, which, by the way, Riker points out was valued at over £2,000 while real art takes a back seat. The left hates hierarchy of any kind, so they must destroy objective beauty.
Ugliness is their tool. Chaos is their doctrine.
If you surround people with ugliness, brutalist, concrete architecture, incoherent modern art, noise disguised as music, you demoralize them on a subconscious level. A demoralized population is much easier to control. They lose the will to build and the will to fight.
It all converges. The ugly buildings, the hysterical politics, the broken families. Riker calls it the Red-Green Rainbow Alliance.
This is the final piece of the ideological puzzle. You see the marches today. You have the rainbow flag representing LGBTQ activists, the red flag of Marxism, the black anarchist flag, and the green flag of Islamism. On paper, logically, these groups should despise each other. Islamists are not exactly pro-trans rights.
So why are they marching arm in arm in the streets?
Because they share a singular common enemy, the Father. Western civilization, Christian order. Riker calls it an unholy alliance. They have implicitly agreed to work together to burn down the West. They figure they can fight each other over the ashes later. But for now, the target is the institutions. The target is you.
Man, this is heavy. I feel like I need a stiff drink after going through all this. But we promised the listener survival manual. We can't just leave you in the pit. Riker ends with a call to arms.
And this is incredibly important because his solution is not violence. He is very clear on this. Violence is their tool. The meat cleaver is their weapon. Our weapon is reality itself, restoring truth, logic, and beauty.
He talks about the red pill not as a one-time event where you wake up, but as a daily discipline.
Right. You don't just take the pill and coast. You have to fight for reality every single day. When the world says 2 + 2 = 5, you have to stand up and say, no, it is 4. Just remaining sane and logical is a revolutionary act right now.
He gives some very specific, actionable steps. First is reject the language of the con.
This is step 1 for everyone listening. Do not use their words. Do not put pronouns in your bio. Do not use the word cisgender. Do not apologize for your privilege. When you use their language, you are playing on their home field. You have already conceded the premise and lost. Speak plain, truthful English.
And the next step is rebuild the trivium.
Train your own mind. Learn to spot a logical fallacy. Teach your children logic and grammar. If the captured public schools won't do it, you must do it at home. Become a center of order in a chaotic world. Riker says truth is not democratic. It doesn't matter if 51% of the population votes that gravity is a social construct. You stay grounded in the truth.
There's a final story in the Call to Arms chapter that really sums this entire deep dive up perfectly. The burning church.
Portland, 2019. During the massive riots, historic church is set on fire by the mob. The flames are licking up the sides of the building, but out front there is a signboard, and the sign says, Marxism is love.
Marxism is love, and the church is left untouched by the fire department while it burns behind the sign.
It is the absolute perfect encapsulation of the satanic inversion. They will tell you they are fighting for love, for justice, for safety, and while they chant those words, they will burn down everything your ancestors sacrificed to build. Riker's final warning is simple. If we don't wake up, if we don't fight this spiritual and psychological war, the satanic inversion becomes permanent. The fire wins.
That is the final verdict on the book. Marxism, a Christian heresy, a satanic inversion by Conrad Riker. This isn't just a book review. This is a wake-up call for men who are tired of the lies.
Without a doubt. If you want a scalpel to slice open the rot of Western civilization, if you want to arm yourself against the madness, you need this text.
So I am going to tell you one last time. Pause this right now. Go to Amazon Kindle. Go to Google Playbooks. Buy the ebook. Read it. Highlight it. Then go to Substack and subscribe to @ConradNRiker. That is @ConradNRiker. Flood the zone with truth. Leave a 5-star review on Amazon so the algorithm can't bury it.
This is how we fight back. Knowledge is the first step.
And before you go, make sure you like and subscribe to The Deep Dive for more incisive breakdowns like this one. We aren't afraid of the dark here. We are going to keep digging until we hit bedrock.
Stay logical. Stay strong.
We'll see you on the next one.